Imagine that you are giving an important speech to a large group of people. Before, when you were writing your speech, you found an article written by someone else that had some really great ideas. Because all the ideas fit so perfectly, you decided to quote from the article and include it in your speech. However, as you practiced and rehearsed your speech, you felt that it would ruin the flow of your presentation if you paused to identify the source of this original quotation. And besides which, the person who originally said those words isn't too famous, so you figure that no one in the audience will have heard those words before. And besides that, people might think you sound really smart if they think that you came up with those ideas all by yourself. At the end of your talk, everyone claps loudly, and afterwards many people congratulate you on your brilliant and motivational speech. Finally, one woman in the audience who was listening quietly personally congratulates you and says, "I especially enjoyed the quotation that you shared with all of us. I really like that quote because I really like that author's writings." Surprised, you ask her, "Oh, you know the author of that quote?" "Oh yes," she replies, "because you see, I am the author of that quote." Uh-oh. That would be a very embarrassing situation that could have been avoided if you had simply given credit to the author of your quote. In basic academic writing, it's okay to use quotations as part of your research, but here are 7 basic rules you should always follow in order to avoid this same kind of embarrassment. Punctuation. Anytime and every time you decide that you want to use the same words that someone else already wrote or said, you must use quotation marks. These little punctuation marks are very important and signal to the reader that the words they are about to read come from another source. Without these punctuation marks, you are telling your reader that you are the original author. Forgetting to include these small punctuation marks counts as plagiarism, which is a serious academic offense. There's some other important punctuation as well. If you decide to omit or take out part of the original sentence in your quote, you should use the triple dot ellipsis to show if you're cutting off the front, middle, or end of the sentence. If you decide to add a subject or a subject pronoun or anything else to quickly clarify the topic of the sentence, then you should use square brackets around the word that you inserted. If you decide to just use 1 or 2 special words that come directly from the source, you can use single quotation marks to show that these words come directly from the source of your information. Citation and reference list. In addition to using quotation marks, you also need an in-text citation right after your quote that identifies the source of the quote, and a full reference list entry at the end of your paper that provides all of the information necessary for the reader to trace the quote back to the original source. The way you format your in-text citation and your reference list will depend on the academic formatting style that your teacher requires. APA, Chicago, and MLA are very popular academic formatting styles you can learn more about by going to the Purdue University OWL website. Depending on the academic formatting style, you may also need to include the page number as part of your in-text citation. Use quotes sparingly. Most of your writing should be your writing. After all, you are being graded on this writing assignment, not any of the people you are quoting. Quoting extensively is not good academic writing. Just like it would look really bad to give a keynote speech to an important group of people and basically quote someone else, it doesn't look good if your paper is just made of quotes. If your topic requires extensive research, use the writing skills of summarizing and paraphrasing more than quoting. Reserve quotations for when you find really powerful and inspirational quotes that succinctly communicate the main idea. Keep your quotes as short as possible. Trying to fill your paper with more words by using someone else's words is very poor academic writing. 99% of the time, you shouldn't quote a whole paragraph, and may not even need to quote a whole sentence. Depending on the length of your quote, there are rules about how to format the quote in the body of your writing. For example, in APA formatting, if the quote is longer than 40 words, you need to format it differently than for a shorter quote. Be 100% accurate. If your child asked for permission to drive the car by themselves, and you told them that you don't think they are ready to drive alone, you would be pretty upset if they ran and told your spouse, "Dad thinks I'm ready to drive alone." In this example, your child quoted almost everything you said. They just left out one important word: don't. There's no excuse for misquoting from a written source, and that includes spelling, punctuation, or grammar errors that did not appear in the original quotation. If you're going to quote anything, quote it correctly. Don't take your original author out of context. Although it's good to be brief, you also need to be very careful that you are not taking your author's words out of context. This means that you are not changing the original meaning just to support your main idea. You probably know how it feels to have your own words taken out of context. For example, what if a friend who is a little nosy wanted to know how you felt about a particular girl? If you said that you really like her a lot, but you don't have any romantic feelings for her, you would be pretty upset if your friend ran to the girl and said, "John says he really likes you a lot." Your friend quoted at least part of your words accurately, but by not sharing the complete quote, the original meaning was lost. This kind of quotation, where the meaning is taken out of context, just makes trouble for everyone, so avoid it at all costs. Quote from the original source. Scholars cite other scholars in their writing, and so when you come across a very interesting quotation, check carefully to see who is the original author. Look at the author's in-text citation and reference list. Use the information to try and find the publication written by the original author. Verify that it was quoted correctly before using it in your own paper. Being able to trace your writing to the original source is a sign of good scholarship and will help you make sure that you are quoting correctly. The next time you give a speech or write an academic paper, make sure that you quote correctly. Your listeners or readers will actually be much more impressed with you if you show them all the efforts that you went to in order to provide them with the best information, including quoting from the best sources and quoting in the best ways.